Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Resilient Health Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Darin Ingels. And joining me on the podcast today is Ryan Today. He's the Chief Scientific Officer for Relax Saunas. And I'm really happy to have him on the podcast today because sauna is one of my favorite modalities as a way to detoxify, to way to literally help you relax, as the name suggests in their company. So Ryan, I really appreciate you spending time with us today.
Absolutely glad to be here. I
Now
love the topic.
let's just jump right in. Let's talk about, I think most people have had the experience, at the gym, they've been in the sauna, they've seen the sauna. Can we just talk a little bit, what are really some of the health benefits of using a sauna?
So I think we'd start from the top down, and a lot of studies are now showing dramatic improvement in all cause mortality. And I think that really speaks to the primary benefit of sauna is that it's a systemic way of healing, not just treating a particular pathway of healing, but mobilizing everything. And I'm in my research, I'm leading that to what I'm dubbing the body heat effect, that a fever is the body's primary modality of generating not just some, but all self-healing, rejuvenating factors, regenerative factors go in when you go into different kinds of fever states.
So without getting overly technical, what is it that sauna, what is it? I mean, it's heat in different ways, but what is it really doing to the body?
So what it's doing is, and this is the difference between different saunas actually have a slightly different effect. So traditional saunas very much have an outside in effect, where you're heating the environment either with steam and moisture, or it's a dry heat, a dry sauna. And in that world, that's where people commonly ask, like, well, how hot does it get? Because when you're using that kind of a sauna, you have to get, in my opinion, stupidly hot on the outside to force the body into what's technically known as a thermal stress response, where the body is reacting to the stress of being in a high environment. And that is actually very healthy. Um, uh, the infrared saunas have a different outcome where they're using light. There's some heat, but it's mainly the light that's going into the tissue that's causing the cells to basically vibrate. And just like in a dance hall, it's cold as can be until everybody starts dancing. You create all that body heat. That body heat amplifies, and it room heats that room up really quickly. And that's the difference between the relaxed sauna versus all the other saunas, infrared saunas. So now we're talking from dry and steam to infrared. And what makes the relax different, and why I'm so thrilled for them to be funding my research and to be working in this modality and researching this, because this is actually a body heat amplifier. The unique infrared they make isn't near, it's not mid infrared, it's not even all of the far infrared spectrum. It's this tight band of infrared that took them 10 years to figure out how to block everything else out, leaving just this, which is that wavelength of infrared that we all naturally emit. Obviously, I can't see light coming off of you. If I was a snake, I could. Snakes can see infrared. But we're all emitting this infrared light. When you get a warm, loving hug, the quality of that heat that comes off of you, and you're getting a massage, the heat that comes off of your massage therapist's hand is what the relaxed sauna makes in concentrated high dosage format, basically.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know Dr. Stephen Genuis, I'm sure you're familiar with his work. He's a medical doctor and he's done a lot of really interesting research on sauna. And I think what's fascinating is the amount of stuff that gets excreted through the skin, when you're in a sauna. And, part of the reason I think, we like the infrared type saunas, it's just that infrared wavelength can penetrate deeper into tissue to help mobilize toxins out of tissue. And consider that a lot of toxins we get exposed to are fat soluble, which means they go to our fatty parts of our body. And of course, whether you're a skinny person, not a skinny person, we all have a layer of fat on the, just underneath our skin. And so that's where a lot of these toxins tend to harbor. And so that infrared wavelength has the ability to get deeper in tissue. So the near infrared stays pretty superficial, close to the skin, mid infrared kind of in the middle. And of course, the far infrared has at least, you could probably tell me better than I, how deep it gets into tissue. I think it's a matter of, a few inches or something like that. So I know that there are some saunas that are just far infrared. some that have mixed infrared. So what you're really talking about with Relax Sauna is a very targeted infrared wavelength, right?
That's exactly right. It's a little spectrum specifically between 7,000 and 14,000 nanometers.
Yeah. So, I personally, I own a sauna. I like sauna. I'm just always amazed that with my patients too, how many people, and even after just a handful of sessions, start to report that they start to feel better in so many different ways. And I like the therapy too because it's really safe for just about anybody. It's I like things that help your body heal that don't involve taking a pill, whether it's a nutrient, a herb, or a drug. And this is a very non-invasive way to do that. And when people are considering, getting a sauna for themselves, I know a lot of people look at the price tag because a lot of good saunas. I mean, they're not cheap, but it's really an investment into your health and for your whole family. And I just talked with a patient I was working with the other day and realized, we talked about sauna for her specifically, but she's like, oh, my husband's got high blood pressure. He could probably benefit from this. I've got a child that's got some issues. They could probably benefit. So the whole family gets to benefit, by having a sauna in the home.
Yeah, they really do. And you're right. This far infrared goes deeper into the body, and that produces a dramatically more pronounced effect. And it is something that everybody can use, especially when ours is so small and portable. Takes only 3 by 3 feet of space. But you alluded on the things that really matter. In that the our ability, how the fat that we have is storing all of this. And so here's what's interesting: is when you're in a normal sauna, you have the panels that are beaming out at you. So you're really only getting that therapeutic light itself. Yeah, your body's getting warm, but you're getting that therapeutic light here, your couple of spots on your back, sides of your legs and your feet. In this environment, and I'll just go ahead and show you actually real fast. So that's my sauna here in the living room facing the TV. So the generators are actually at the feet. There's two little boxes that have 20 of these little semiconductor chips in it each, and that bounces that light all around you. The silver lining of the tent bounces that light all around you. So instead of just getting it here and here, everywhere all at once, it's going near, 2 or more inches deep into the body, hitting bone, innervating getting cellular movement at the bone to be able to produce a wildly more pronounced effect in the body. Uh, and not just in normal sauna use. A seahorse isn't a horse and a groundhog's not a hog. Um, uh, this is, yes, it can be used as a sauna, but as I've done my research in this company, as I've partnered with them more, I've realized what we have is actually something really different, and it's a body heat amplifier. And what that means is we can do things with this that we can't do with normal saunas. We can use it. For example, when I met the company, they were using these little 5-minute demonstrations at events, purely to us like, hey, free 5 minutes in this sauna. And I realized quickly when I met them, like, you understand, in 5 minutes, we're seeing on the regular 50 to 100% reduction in soreness, headaches, tension, tightness, just melted in 5 to 7 minutes with clothes on, without sweating. We're getting parasympathetic activity. We're getting lymphatic movement. We're getting natural anti-inflammatory pathways are opening up. Mitochondria are taking a break and innervating themselves for another natural high energy performance cycle after that rest cycle. Natural detoxification cycles run. So aside from what this is doing to detox, all it takes is 5 minutes just to trigger that little rest and repair cycle so the body's own natural systems can run. So based on that modality alone, I now, in the past year, we now have these in elementary schools. Dr. Ingels, think about that. Elementary schools. I have these in restaurants. We've got these in waiting rooms and lobbies and offices, places you would never put a sauna because of just the effect of what it does. Nothing else is this fast. So we're producing far more because when we block out all that infrared, we can up the dosage of how much energy do we provide you at once without creating overexposure. That's why there's no warm up time in this. Every other sauna, everyone takes 15 minutes at least, if not 30 or more, to get warm enough to be used. Here, you sit down, you zip up, turn the timer, and it's warm immediately all around you. And I'm now doing a lot of research into using these little 5-minute interval sessions to produce wildly pronounced effects, allowing to trigger the body across a different strategy. They call it the radiance protocol, where we're actually following the natural ultradian rhythms of the body throughout the day. So that way, at the end of the day, we don't have a bunch of garbage body where we feel like junk. And it's really hard to do the right thing at the end of the day when you don't feel good, let alone even know what the right thing even is. And that's why what I'm really excited about researching is how this can help as a modality for everything else that you do. The supplements you take, bring me any healing or fitness regimen. And there's a way that this can be used to prime the body to assimilate it, to work with it, to do it in a different way. There's something just very powerful about the body heat effect.
Yeah, it's the one thing I know about your sauna that's really remarkably different than other saunas I've been in. And I go to a lot of conferences. There's a lot of different sauna vendors, and I like all of them. But I noticed with yours, you heat up really quickly. I mean, I have a big box sauna. Honestly, I have to turn it on for at least 30 minutes before I get in it, before it actually gets hot. So, if you're a busy person, time is money. And, when you're waiting just to get the sauna to a point where you might even start to break a sweat, that's sometimes harder for people. And I see a lot of people who've got the big box saunas that at some point they kind of stop using it just because that lag time to get it to heat up. And it just, we really want people, I want my patients sweating for at least 20 to 30 minutes once they break a sweat. So if you tack on another 30 minutes to even get to that point, well, now it's an hour-long session. And when we're asking people to get in their sauna 3 to 5 times a week for therapeutic benefits, that just adds, doubles the time. So I appreciate that, your sauna heats up. I think it was like 2 or 3 minutes. It's just like, boom, you're already at temperature and, starting to sweat.
Yeah. Yeah. So sweat does onset typically between 5 to 7 minutes. Now, here's what's interesting is if you go in without clothes on, and your intention is to sweat, yeah, you can be there in 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, you're already sweating. So by 20 minutes, you're in a deep sweat. But if you go in with clothes on and the brain isn't thinking to it's here to sweat, people can go in for 5 to 10, even up to 15 minutes. I've adapted people. I did a little pilot study where I had a few people that I adapted to using purely clothes on. So their body was used to going up to 15 minutes without sweating. And then I tried. So if you want to sweat, one of my little hacks is to use like a nano colloidal gold, a silver, a platinum, something that has a high refractory rate. You take that before you go in the sauna. And every one of these people who I tried this with, sure enough, with one drop of the silver, every one of them with clothes on, adapted to no sweat sessions, they got up there like, what did you do to me? And the sweat's dripping off of their finger in the first 5 minutes. So if you want to amplify that sweat, and you can do this with other infrared saunas, they'll go into the tissues, but again, they're just not going to go as deep. They're not going to go everywhere all at once. And they're not going to have that same immediate effect, which we need. But yeah, I'm really excited about these little 5-minute close on intervals as a treatment modality entirely into itself, aside from the sweat sessions and aside from full blown hyperthermia, which again, that's different. You can't do hyperthermia with sauna. Go to any cancer conference, go to anywhere. No doctors are using saunas for hyperthermia because it stresses the body out too much. If you put the body under high heat, it's just too much of a stress response. The core temperature doesn't get high enough.
Right.
This device, even though this is not a medical device, I'm not, as the disclaimer, this is not designed to treat or mitigate or cure any disease or any issue. If you have underlying health conditions, please get with your doctor. But we do have a medical lamp version that uses the same semiconductor chips, and that is a class 2 FDA medical device for inflammation, pain, and wound treatment. And that has 20 semiconductor chips. So there's twice as much inside this little sauna, but this sauna is a metabolic fitness device. And so, yeah, we can get that metabolic fitness in just these short little rounds and just warm up throughout the day. And then when we're ready, sit down. 10 minutes is great for a pre-workout warm up. Get to that point to where you're beating, you got a little bit of a sweat going on. You hit your workout, you got your runner's high, do your yoga afterwards. It's a wonderful priming. Then come back and do a full sweat session afterwards, or even drive it up to 30 minutes for more of an exercise for your organs. Those who are in practice doing hyperthermia with us, using us for hyperthermia, they're in there for 30 to 60 minutes and core temperature. We're not talking skin thermography. We're talking actual core rectal thermography. We're getting people to 1018 1028 by 60 minutes or more. So with some of these protocols and using silver and some of these other hacks that I've come up with, we're thinking we can more comfortably actually get people to 103, 1035, 104, even potentially 1045 or more, again, under medical supervision. And so again, in that case, they're actually doing IVs through these handholds. And there's little zippers right here. So you can
Yeah.
have your hands out, read a book, and do all this, but under medical supervision, yeah, there's wonderful little IV holes that we can do. So that's really where I'm excited about this and why I closed my private practice to be the science director for this company because I've loved saunas. I've used them a long time. I even drilled a hole in my $5,000 cedar sauna so I could pipe a hose in. So during my, hour long, I was doing a lot of breath work and that's another little hack. If you don't know inner fire breath work, do it because this is what my research is leading to, Dr. Ingles. The body heat effect is so important. Every body needs to sweat. If you're not sweating on a regular basis, you're not actually you're putting so much energy and emphasis on your kidneys. Other than dialysis, there's no way to bypass the kidneys. There's no way just to mobilize and some of these things that the kidney can't even process that just accumulates and accumulates and accumulates. We have to sweat it out. And it may sound gross, but the truth is that not all sweat is created equal. When you have a thermal stress response, the purpose of sweat in that instance is to cool you down. So yeah, there's going to be some heavy metals, there's going to be some other things in there just because that's in you and it's going to come out. But when we have a fever, it's actually a very different response. The sweat that comes out in a fever state is not to keep you cool. Your body is creating its own little dance party, doing the sauna effect basically to create this heat inside. So it's working to get you hot. So the sweat that comes out when you have a fever state, the body's natural healing mechanism, primary healing mechanism, it's different. And you can see this. There's a full 30-day money back guarantee on the sauna. So you can even test this during your trial. Just, you know, you go exercise, collect your sweat and look at it in a cup. Hold a light up to it, take a picture. Go sit in another sauna, collect your sweat, collect it, look at it in a cup. Do that here. You will see the sweat coming out of here is murky. There's stuff in it. You can see it. And shout out to anybody who happens to be in a university who owns a Malditoff machine. I'm doing a lot in sweat analysis research, and I love singular tests looking for heavy metals or particular things. But I'd really like to see what are all the things coming out in this sweat because it's visibly different. This is not just somewhat more detoxifying than any other sauna. It's far more detoxifying than any other sauna.
I think it's important for people to understand, your skin is your largest detox organ. Like you said, if you're not sweating, you're limiting your body's ability to excrete different things. But again, I know from Dr. Genuis's work, I mean, it's lead, it's mercury, it's mycotoxins, it's pesticides, herbicides, volatile organic compounds. I mean, we get rid of a lot of junk through our skin. And so, when we talk about, any kind of chronic health condition, I think we would all agree that toxicity is an underlying element of all chronic illness. And the more we detoxify, the more we get rid of that junk. We give the cells a chance to repair themselves, to give the mitochondria a chance to do what they're supposed to do. So, we're really getting down to the cellular level of healing, when you detoxify in this way. Can you
Yeah,
talk
and
a little
doing
bit?
that on a yeah, I was saying just doing that on a regular basis. These little 5-minute intervals. I'm so stoked on getting sauna users trying this because if you stack this with the sweat sessions, because we're honoring the body's natural systems, its natural flow. So it's again, aside from what this is doing, if we can just give our bodies these little rest and repair cycles throughout the day, the same way we need 3 to 4 good REM cycles each night, we should all be getting 3 to 4 good little 15, 20-minute rest and repair cycles in through the day. And this is a fast, easy way to just trigger that little rest and repair cycle.
So do you think there's I know everyone's different, but is there an ideal time and temperature for the average, person out there who just wants, better health, they want to improve their detox pathways? Is there sort of a target that people should be shooting for?
So in terms of temperature, again, in your core temperature, anything is better. And what's right is what's right for you right now. You never want to push yourself to a point of discomfort, but get yourself to a level of comfortable discomfort and then call it at that point. And repetition, because now we're actually working with the bodies again, it's innate intelligence and allowing the brain to adapt. Just like people move here to Arizona, people come visit here, like, how do you live here? It's like, well, bodies acclimate, right? So we want to do that acclimation process. And so really trusting and feeling is healing, right? The more that we can do to feel where our body's at. We shouldn't have to go take a C-reactive protein test to know how much inflammation is generally in our bodies, right? We should be able to feel and sense that. But it's really hard when we have, as you mentioned, all of these things in our bodies clogging us up, giving us garbage body. And when you don't feel well, it's really hard to listen to somebody else. It's really hard to do the right thing or even know what the right thing even is. And so by doing this throughout the day and triggering our natural rest and repair cycles throughout the day, in addition to these deep sweats, we're basically putting ourselves in a situation where at the end of the night, we don't feel like such garbage, literally, that we make bad decisions, jack up our sleep patterns, and repeat these negative cycles over and over and over again. I'm a behavioral scientist. I got started as life neuroplasticity coach. So behavioral shift is actually really near and dear to my heart, and it's amazing how I don't even have to coach somebody. I don't have to help them with cigarettes or alcohol or anything like that. If just by getting this regular pattern of relaxation, deep relaxation to honor the body's natural healing, those problems just fall away naturally. The body does it on its own.
Yeah, I find with a lot of my patients, I mean, just for people who are thinking about this, I find often somewhere between 120, 140 is where I think most people end up falling somewhere along the cycle. If you go to the gym, I always laugh, they set it at some ridiculous temperature, like 170, 180 degrees, and you're in for 5 minutes and you're choking on your own hot breath. And you don't get the same benefit when you're in a really high temperature for a short period of time. You need to give your body a chance to start mobilizing things out of tissue. So I find lower temperature, longer time, whatever that's going to be for you, is going to give you a better detoxification effect. So,
You're
but I
absolutely
like the
right.
idea that you're saying about these 5 minute intervals. I mean, the fact that you can get the benefit in such a short time, I think that's really encouraging.
Yeah, so the ways to use this are 5 minute clothes on, no sweat. Get out before you get too hot. 10 minutes in your gym clothes if you're pre-workout warm up. By 20 minutes, you've got a good sweat. So for the average person, answer your question, who's just looking just for longevity, just performance enhancement, do a 20-minute sweat session most days. If you miss a couple days a week, no big deal, but just do that regularly. 20 minutes again from start to finish is really all you need. If you're really fitness oriented, learn to work your way up over time to 30 kind of thing. And that's for like deep detox and really going deep into the viscera to move the stuff that's hidden deep down inside out of you. But I would say that, if anybody has lymphedema or mass toxicity, please just start off with these 5 minute intervals and slowly increase your time, because it's not just somewhat, it's so much more detoxifying than other saunas that you may be used to going in a normal sauna for 45 minutes or so. And you come try a 20-minute session here, and you can trigger a detox effect. You can detox too fast. So if you've got some issues that might underlie, again, check with your doctor before using it, but start off with these slow intervals and allow that natural process to build and build and build. Next thing you know, you're doing full 20-minute sessions, full 30-minute sessions. It'll happen.
Let's talk a little bit about safety. I know that I get these questions from my own patients. And number one, is it safe? Can you be exposed to this infrared radiation without any harmful effect?
Yeah, you absolutely can, because we're now talking about a wavelength of light that is so far from the ionizing side of the spectrum, right? So as we move from X rays into UV rays, which ionize our skin, meaning they strip ions from our body, and that causes DNA damage. So when we get a sunburn from the sun, it's not that the sun burned us; it's that we had ionization from that caused our body to realize, hey, there's some damaged DNA here. Let's flush that out of the body so we don't have all these cancer producing cells floating around us. Then we move into the visible light band, which acts as like a buffer zone. The light band really isn't ionizing, but and then we get into the near and the far, which you can't see anymore. So as we're in that far infrared spectrum, it's so far from the ionizing side. And that's what's really remarkable about it, is by blocking again off all of the other light bands of infrared, the near, the mid, the far, just this tight band, we're able to up the dosage of how much energy we provide. Again, that's why there's no warm up time, because the dosage is so much higher. If any other infrared sauna, if any other infrared therapy tried giving the amount, if they tried, let's say they're 10 milligrams of vitamin C, we're 50 milligrams of 500 milligrams of vitamin C. And if they tried to up that milligram dosage, they would create overexposure because there's too much energy outside of the body's natural wavelength that it can handle. It'll cause too much of a stress response. So we're basically talking more energy, deeper penetration all around you, and it's immediate. That leads to some practicality that you just can't beat. And especially with its portability, everything else too. So I feel like we're right at the cusp of just kind of starting to understand just how beneficial our own body heat is. Again, that's the miracle of this technology. Is it's designed to basically give us more us. That warm, loving hug you get from somebody, that infrared heat is what this is. We need that in our lives. We need that energy so our cells can do what they need to.
I know the other question that comes up a lot is the EMFs, electromagnetic fields. You don't want to be sitting on basically a big battery or something that's going to have a high electromagnetic output. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, the heat that comes out of it, in terms of safety, you can put a tissue up to this thing and it'll never catch fire. But it produces a lot of heat that could be felt. So it's going to produce some EMFs. Now, what's interesting is that not all EMF is created equal, right? There is healthy EMF, pulse electromagnetic frequencies. There's a lot of healthfulness in that. And so the EMF, it comes down to the higher energies of EMF, especially when they're like what's a saw or a square wave shape, that really hits our body hard and produces these negative oxidative stress channels that really damage our body. But sine waves. So a lot of the EMF protecting devices, they don't block EMF entirely. If they did, that sticker you put on your cell phone, you wouldn't be able to get a phone call if it was blocking all of the EMF, right? What they're doing is they're conditioning the environment so the waveforms move from this into something more sine where it can pass through the body a little bit more easily. So the EMF that's coming off here is healthful. It's designed to be that way. 10 years of research and development figure out how to make this light in a healthful way. So they put a lot of thought and care into this. But then also all that EMF is contained at the feet. So above the ankle, above the calf, above the ankle, there's very little. Above the calf, there's no EMF. So because you're also not sitting in a box with these panels around you where it's creating an electromagnetic field, right? We're not putting
Right.
ourselves in the middle of something where it's just the generators at the feet. But it's so helpful that a lot of people are actually taking the generators out during the winter months and just setting them up and letting them run 24/7 as a room warmer because it's lower energy. I mean, just plugs into a normal outlet. It's only 1400 watts. So not a lot of energy consumption. It's like a hair dryer or a Vitamix. Um, so not a lot of energy consumption. Puts off more heat than most room warmers do. There's no fire hazard. There's no smell. And yeah, it's a more healthful light. It's a body heat amplifier.
Is there anybody that really should not be in a sauna? Are there any specific contraindications?
Um, the debate is out. Many experts say do if you're pregnant, do not because you don't want to detoxify. It's not just the sauna itself; it's the detoxification. You don't want to be doing detox when you're pregnant or breastfeeding. Some doctors say some forms of detox are actually very valuable during pregnancy. So that's a complicated subject into itself. Um, you know, the Other than that, if you in a normal sauna, dry heat saunas, if you have heart cardiovascular issues, that thermal stress response can be too hard and can raise your blood pressure. In this sauna and generally other infrared saunas, it lowers blood pressure. So you just want to be aware that if you start getting lightheaded, if you already have low blood pressure, that's your turn just to kick the timer off and know that you did a great thing by actually exercising your vascular structure, creating angiogenesis, oxygenating your tissues, which, as we know, the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. So there's that. The other issue is if you are heavily laden and have a problem with detox, just work your way up. But kids can use this, right? I mentioned earlier, we have these in elementary schools, lowering
Right.
blood pressure, elevating mood, reducing soreness and pain. Um, so kids, the issue is you don't want to get them too hot. But here in these interval sessions, they're not getting hot enough for that to be an issue. They're getting that what they need. They're getting that body heat that they need to allow their body to just reset, relax, and feel good in a minute.
Well, this has been incredibly helpful, and I wish every person in my practice had a sauna in their home. It's something I recommend to the overwhelming majority of my patients, just because again, there's so much clinical application. It's so safe, again, for the majority of people. And people like it. I mean, they get to a point where they look forward to their, 5, 20, 30-minute session of getting in the sauna at the end of the day after school, after work. People feel more calm, more relaxed, helps relieve the stress. And we get all that, of course, additional benefit of actually improving your detox pathways. And I think we'd all agree we live in a more toxic world. So, as clean as you live your life, it's just hard to avoid the onslaught of, chemicals that we get exposed to on a daily basis. So this is just a great way to encourage your body to get rid of all that junk.
Yeah, take a shower for your insides. You know, get that out of you, and and that's you mentioned your practice. That's my role here as science director. I work a lot with practitioners and professionals developing integrative care protocols. How do we use this then sequencing or stacking different other protocols? And it's beautiful as a tool for chiropractors to soften up fascia. It's beautiful for psychotherapists to get somebody in parasympathetic so you can get straight into a raw, real conversation real fast. So I'm dubbing that visceral priming is the scientific term that I've given for it. So how do we prime the viscera, prime the body as a means of complementing other healing modalities? And I'm just going to go ahead and put this out there. If I'm successful in my work, I don't know how long it'll take, but I want to earn a Nobel Prize for the scientists who invented this little semiconductor chip for showing it as one of the most ultimate adjunctive therapies. So it doesn't matter what else you're doing in your life to feel better, fuel your fitness and your wellness. I have no doubt that doing this as a systemic process will create a better terrain and environment for you to better utilize these other solutions, make use of them, and also just put you into a better state to where you can start doing more of the things that you want to do. But currently, it's really hard because you've got so much inflammation. You're so exhausted. There's so much built up in your body that, yeah, I totally get it.
Well, we're excited to have people check out the product. So we're going to drop a link in the show notes to Relax Sauna's website, and we're also going to give you guys an opportunity if you're interested in getting one for you or your family. If you just put in the code Ingels, it's just my last name, Ingels. It's going to give you $200 off the cost of the sauna. That's a great discount on a really wonderful product that's going to help you and your family. So we'll put all that information in the show notes, but definitely check it out. And again, I think you're going to really be impressed with the product and the fact, again, you get 30 days to really test drive it, see how you feel, see how other people in your family respond. And I think you're going to be happy with the results that you find.
Yeah, you absolutely will, especially because you mentioned family. Like you can take this with you, so everybody can really use this. They can utilize it. I love seeing my kids get frustrated with their homework on their own, stepping away, zip up, come back refreshed, renewed to tackle that problem. But one thing, if people are checking us out, one thing I want to make sure is clear. As I mentioned before, this is a silver tent. We also have a black tent. The black tent is more money because there's 3 pounds more fabric and more silver on the inside that makes it more reflective. So this will get up to about 149. The semiconductors are generated programmed to stay around 149. You will, however, get much hotter because, and last thing I'll say on this to wrap up is that's what, again, when the generators are special and unique, but we can amplify that body heat in this tent. So the longer you're in, that's why experience becomes super soothing for 1 to 10 minutes, deep sweat for 20, exercise at 30, and then boom, we're talking potential hyperthermia from there because Dr. Ingalls, I think you'll get a kick out of this, and I can't wait for you to experience this. It's the amplification effect. That silver lining amplifies not only the infrared that's coming from the generators, but as you get hot, if I put you under a thermal camera, you'd glow brighter. More light out, that light out bounces off the tent walls, comes back into you. You get hotter, you glow brighter. More light out, more light in. It's a positive feedback loop where your own infrared energy is coming back into you. And so the experience goes from soothing, whoop, 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 and woof. That's a really, really interesting effect that I'm really excited to research and for you to experience yourself because you become the infrared generator, right? So if we're talking about what kind of band of light, what are these differences? Let's use your own light, your own energy to help your body fuel itself. It's a really interesting, fascinating effect.
Fantastic. Well, Brian, I really appreciate you spending time with me today on the podcast, and I look forward to everybody being able to check out Relax Sauna.